Well, I want to swing back to politics. So just two more things before we get up out of here. I'm going to go to Jasmine Crockett, right? Because she put her bid in for Senate. She's running for senator for the state of Texas. However, she is in the battle for the Democrat primary, and her opponent, James Talarico. So it says Jasmine Crockett leads James Talarico by 8 points. One second.
Yeah, well, we will be. Anyway, it's the bankruptcy of the Democratic Party. They still have to run against a Republican opponent.
Yes, and there hasn't been a Democrat senator out of Texas in over 30 years. So I guess she thinks because she is on a national stage that maybe she has a shot.
Yeah, I'd still bet on the snowball surviving hell before, the old saying, you got the chances of a snowball not melting in hell.
I guess, but I think she's going to have a hard time because she made some remarks about Latino voters. And in the state of Texas, Latinos make up 45% of the population. So if you don't win their vote on the Democrats and even get some Republicans to vote for you, you're not going to win at all. So I want to share what she said.
What Malcolm X said still holds true. A processed head reflects a processed mind. And she's got a very processed hairdo and barn door eyelashes.
Let me play this.
Under the wire decision for Texas Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett to run for re-election to her House seat or shoot for the U.S. Senate. The Congresswoman announced her bid for Senate on Monday, joining an already somewhat crowded Democratic field. Joining us now is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. So congratulations on your announcement.
Thanks.
Your official announcement is just a video of you and an image of you while insults of President Trump of you play in the background. Why that decision? I mean, one of your opponents, Talarico, he had a video, him with constituents, him with Texans. Why you solo?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. Number one, I wanted to do something different. Because number one, in order to flip the state of Texas, we're going to have to do something that we've never done. So I wanted to stay on brand with the fact that we would be different. I also wanted people to understand who the president sees as a real threat, and it is me. He also made it clear a number of times that he sees me as a leader. Those were his words, not mine. And so I wanted to do that. That's number one. Number two, I wanted to do a real announcement with actual people, nothing that was staged. I wanted the real people, and so it had to be in that moment. So I also wanted to make sure that we delivered a full speech that had all the substance there. So on that same day, if you were paying attention or if you were interested, you got the full meat of what it is that I want to do as the next senator in the state of Texas, as well as I did this with the people right there at home in my district.
So last night you told Laura Coates on this network that you don't need to get all the Trump voters in order to win the Senate seat, assuming you win the Democratic nomination. We should note President Trump won Texas pretty handily by about 14 percentage points. So you don't need every Trump voter, but you need a big chunk of them. Explain the math to me. How does any Democrat, but especially one who is progressive and outspoken, how do you win over Trump voters?
So this is what I want to tell you about. There's two things that we need to talk about that are separate things that I think both of them are necessary to win. Number one, we actually have to turn out more voters. If you do the research on the state of Texas, we typically rank the lowest in voter turnout period in the country. We've got to get that up. I want to say the most recent one that I remember, maybe a little over 50% of people turned out. When we looked at Georgia and we saw Georgia go blue, what they were able to do is they were able to get more people to participate. So that's number one. So for me, it was always about expanding the electorate. Number two, this is a great talking point that we have heard over and over and over, that maybe you need to sound like a Trumper so you can get Trump Trumpers to be on board. But what we know is that there were Trump and Mondami voters. There were Obama and Trump voters. There were AOC and Trump voters. So a lot of people want to distill this down into something as simple as, oh, it's progressive or it's this. But the reality is that people vote for who they believe in. They vote for the people that they believe really care about bettering their lives. And what we know is apparent is that a lot of people have been turned off by Trump. When we look at Tennessee, I'm not asking you to look far north or over in California. When you look at the red state of Tennessee, he won that seat by over 20 points, yet it came within single digits. When you look at Mississippi, they flipped 2 Senate seats. When you look at Georgia on November 4th, they elected 2 Democrats statewide. So what I am saying is people are finally saying, you know what, even those that voted for Trump, because there's plenty that regret it. Yeah. And I think that those people would be more willing to listen at this point. But I think you've got to expand the electorate, and you got to talk to anybody who actually says, you know what, he played us.
Let me tell you.
Well, I don't regret voting for him.
I don't regret. I'm going to vote for anything he runs for again, but he can't. Likely as not, he won't even try, but his vice president certainly is going to get my vote if when they have the next presidential contest. By the way, she came through Memphis and went to Rhodes College. She's one of the typical local Democratic idiots that we have here, where they would rather have theft and death in their cities than acknowledge Trump could do anything. And they have no positive plans. Even Mondani had a program, even though it sounded like the posturing of an idiot, but he can't do it because he doesn't have the authority under his state laws to do it. But it was a nice talk up, but she has nothing to offer except being anti-Trump, which is a sick way to campaign. And I don't think the state of Texas is going to buy into her bullshit. She has a district, a congressional district, which is a small number of people. It was gerrymandered on the front end so somebody like her could get in office. Now it no longer exists. So what's the point? So she's picking the Senate, and I think she's got a less chance of getting out of that without getting melted down than a snowball would have escaping from hell unscathed.
I want to finish playing the rest of it, because in this segment, this part of the interview where she makes a comment trying to backtrack what she said about the Latino voters.
Let me ask you about a quote that you've made that has some Democrats worried about your ability to win statewide. In a December 2024 Vanity Fair profile, you talked about, quote, and I'm going to read a lot of the quote just to put it in the context, quote, all the complexities within the Latino community. The immigration thing has always been something that has perplexed me about this community. It's basically like, I fought to get here, but I left y'all where I left y'all, and I want no more y'all to come here. If I wanted to be with y'all, I would stay with y'all, but I don't want y'all coming to my new home. It almost reminds me of what people would talk about when they would talk about kind of like slave mentality and the hate that some slaves would have for themselves. It's almost like a slave mentality that they have. Now, about the time that that was published last year, around 1 million Latino voters in Texas were voting for Trump. Do they all have slave mentality?
No, and that's not what that said at all, to be clear. It did not say that every Latino has that type of mentality.
No, but the ones that vote for people who believe in strong or Trump's immigration policies.
So I don't believe that the people that voted for Trump believe in what they're actually getting. That is number one. What Trump said is that he was going to kick out the bad guys. And that's what I was talking about. I've been down to the border. I've been down to South Texas. I've campaigned down there. And so I am talking about exactly what was going on when I was down there on behalf of the Beto campaign. In fact, when he was running for governor, I was sent as a surrogate. And I said, talk to me about what is going on. Why is it that they believe that they can win Latinos down here? Like, I don't understand what's happening. And there were people that were saying that they had fought and they had done everything the right way, and that there were bad people that were coming that were doing it the wrong way. And so they were saying, no, we left. And I mean, when you think about people that are leaving asylum, they are leaving areas and situations that they feel like are harmful to them. So yes, they're like, no, I don't want to be in this dangerous situation. And that's what I meant. But at the same time, I knew what Trump meant, because Trump had a record. Trump had a record of locking up kids and putting them in cages. So I knew what Trump meant. And so that's why it wasn't making sense to me. And ultimately right now, I just came from a joint hearing that we were having on the Senate side. It's the Senate as well as the House. The first time I've had a joint hearing ever since I have been in the House. And I was listening to Latino American citizens that have been arrested by this regime. Some of those people may have voted for Trump. I don't know. But they agree that what he's doing now is wrong. And it's about right versus wrong and not right versus left. And he sold them a bag of goods. And I knew that that's what he was selling because I knew his record.
All right, Jasmine Crockett, we'll leave.
Your record is shit. So what do we got to say about that? And the other thing is check this out. See, what she doesn't, she's all over the place. She's as bad as Kamala Harris in terms of being incoherent. But the bottom line is there are a lot of good Mexican citizens who waited in line, did it the right way, took the courses, took the test, waited their turn, and now they're bringing in people that nobody has checked. They get to jump the line and not go through the deal. And these good Hispanic citizens are saying, we don't want the cartels in here. They made our homeland, previous homeland, a hell. We don't want the drugs in here. We don't want the lawlessness in here. We want good American citizens like we are. That's like saying, you were German. I live in Germantown, Tennessee, right? That's the name of the place. So do you mean all of the Germans in the United States were trying to invite the Nazis over here in World War II? Do you mean all of the Italian folk that I know in the United States were trying to invite Mussolini over, Benito over here to run his brand of fascism? No, they weren't. See, they were loyal Americans. So do you think the Japanese that were the sensei that participated in so far the most highly decorated U.S. military unit in American history over there fighting in Italy, they approved of Pearl Harbor? No, they didn't. But you see, she seems to think that just because somebody has the identity, they're supposed to identify with the illegality. Maybe that's her problem because she doesn't seem to offer anything other than I'm black and I'm female, therefore vote for me, because I haven't heard any policy out of her. I haven't heard any introduction or sponsored legislation out of her. I've heard a whole bunch of stupid, crazy stuff that gives a bad name to the public defender's office. And you know I'm always defending public defenders, but she was one, and as idiot as she acts and what she says, she would be, I wouldn't want a public defender like her.
But here's the thing, though, because she's not going to win because her talking points is just anti-Trump. Voters in a state, because Senate is that's local. It's Congress. That's all local elections. They want to know, what are you going to do for them in that state? They don't give a damn about what's going on nationally or federally. And she keeps talking about anti-Trump this, anti-Trump that. And she needs to stop because her opponent is not talking about Republicans or Trump. He is actually admitting to the faults of the Democrats. And I want to play this clip.
But see, here's the big thing. Even if she wins the Democratic primary, she's going to have a Republican opponent for the main election.
Right. So her opponent is James Talarico, who is a Texas native. He's 26 years old, and he was on this show Jubilee. And
are you sure 26?
I mean, I'm
30,
sorry, 36.
You got to be 30 to run for U.S. Senate.
36. And so he was on Jubilee, and he was talking about the migrant crisis.
I will say what I think not enough Democrats have been willing to say. Joe Biden failed us on our southern border. I believe in borders, and I don't believe in amnesty. Let's take the Vargases. We were talking about how they are sympathetic, hardworking small business owners in our community. They've been here for decades. There needs to be a path to citizenship. That is not the same thing as amnesty, because you're right.
Is there not already a path to citizenship?
No, and that's the problem. We've got millions of people who are living here in the shadows, and there is no path for them to actually come into compliance, which I want them to do. I'm a law and order Democrat. I believe that laws matter and there should be consequences for breaking the law.
Okay.
But here's what I will say, Tyler. We do recognize in our legal system that there are different punishments for different kinds of offenses. There are civil offenses, like being here without documentation. There are criminal offenses, like murdering, raping someone. And those things are treated differently. And so, in my mind, and again, I'm open to negotiating how the details work, but there needs to be, in broad strokes, a pathway to citizenship where they pay a fine for being here without documentation or crossing the border illegally. There should be some penalty for that. I'm not disagreeing. They should also have to pay back taxes. Again, immigrants, undocumented immigrants in particular, pay a lot of taxes and don't get benefits in return, but they may be missing some of those taxes because they weren't citizens. They need to pay those back taxes. And they need to go through the citizenship process. They got to take the test.
I 100% agree.
They got to learn about our government. They got to learn about our culture. All that is so important. If they do all those things, and they've been here a long time and they've been contributing, I think they should be brought into compliance.
You just said they need to go through the immigration process, but then you just told me a minute ago that there is no immigration process, that they can't become citizens.
I'm talking about creating one.
Okay, point in question. Usually in American law, if you violate the law, you should not be rewarded. In other words, it's like going out, if you are a convicted felon, I don't care what you have been up to, you're not supposed to be in possession of a firearm, all right? So you just blew the rest of your life by what you did. That's a punishment for doing something felonious. And by the way, it is criminal. It's Title 8, Section 1324 of the United States Criminal Codes, and that punishes, for example, setting up a sanctuary city as being a felony. So the people that help that's felonious, and they should be in jail. Now, there are a lot of people that need to be indicted and should, and if American law works fair, they will be. This whole thing about breaking in, if they broke the law on the front end, how can you expect them to be good citizens and follow the law in the future if they chose to scoff law it on the front end? You see, and they're not juveniles, they're adults we're talking about. They broke the law, so they should be deported.
Here's the thing. Here's what I want to say about him, because when you listen to Jasmine Crockett and you're listening to him, two different types of approaches. He actually, to be a Democrat, and he admitted what Biden did and that administration did at the border was wrong.
It was messed up.
And so let me finish. And so he admitted that, and I respect that. And he's speaking to policy. She is not. She is too focused on Trump, which is why I think that she is not. Well, first of all, she's not going to win the Senate because she won't be able to beat the Republican. But I don't even want her to be able to get out of the primary. Now, she probably has more financial backing in her war chest than he does, but he sounds like a decent Democrat. And in other words, he didn't want to come out and say, close the border and lock him up. But what he did say is, there should not be 10 million illegals in this country. He didn't say those exact words, but that's exactly what he was getting around. And he also admitted there is no pathway. There is not. Because before this mass illegal migrant crisis that the Biden administration calls, people coming here illegally, even though Obama deported the most, over 3 million, but people that were coming here illegally, or people that came here the right way, it takes them over 10 years just to get a green card, and even longer than that to become a citizen in some incidents. So our immigration department is disorganized, unorganized. And then now you had a prior administration that was literally breaking state and federal laws, having open borders, open sea, and open air for illegals to just come into this country without even being vetted. But at least he admitted what Joe Biden did was wrong. She doesn't. And then on top of that, Jasmine Crockett is calling Latino voters, saying that they have a slave mentality voting for Trump. But those are the same people you're going to have to convince at least 5% to vote for your ass.
So you don't have a slave mentality because you vote for her because she's a black female and nothing else, and you vote for the slave party, the Democratic Party that was founded to advance slavery, started the Civil War to maintain slavery, did Jim Crow, segregation to maintain a virtual condition of slavery and separation. Yeah, that party. And we're supposed to listen to you talking about somebody else being slavish when we know what the propaganda truth is. You flip the script and accuse the other side of what you are about. And that's exactly what she shows. She's got a processed head, and that reflects a processed mind. She doesn't have an original thought in there. She just spouts the Democratic Party BS about evil Trump, the boogeyman, the what is it, Baba Yaga.
I want
Might
to
as
play
well
this last
bring
clip here.
in John Wick. Now, who is
I
this?
want to I want to play this last clip. This is a person on TikTok, but I like what she had to say about Jasmine Crockett.
One thing I know about Republicans up on Capitol Hill is when they tell you they're going to do something, they've already done it. The plan has been finalized and they've moved on to the next objective. Okay, so by the time the public finds out about it, it's already too late. You can't do anything about it. Why do I say all of this? Because if you do a simple Google search in regards to why Jasmine Crockett is running for senator, she did not get the blessing from the Democratic Party. She was convinced by the Republican Party via the Republican Senatorial Convention to run for Senate. I didn't put two and two together until I seen the video of the Speaker of the House talking about, we are happy that she is running. We want her to run. And I'm like, why? And then I went on her website. This is not about the people of Texas. She don't give a fuck about the people of Texas. She's running for Senate because of her ego. Because her ego is bruised due to the fact that she's the first sitting congresswoman to lose her district. And while people in the comment section do not have the intellectual range or comprehension to know the difference between seat and district, she didn't lose her seat because by law, she's still a sitting member of Congress. It's just she don't have a district. But the reason why she lost her district, outside of the fact that it was gerrymandering, was all by design when she decided that she wanted to wage war on the Republican Party by herself. She has no allies. And while y'all sitting there attacking me, talking about that I have to, pledge fealty or loyalty to her all because she's a black woman, I don't subscribe to identity politics, never have and never will. You're hating, you're just jealous. How could I possibly be jealous of a congresswoman that has no districts? She has no allies. She's running for Senate because of her ego. They're setting her up. And y'all don't even see it. Stevie Wonder can see that shit. But I'm going to end it with this. Anybody who has a marketing background, anybody who has a copyright background, I would challenge you, go on her website and count how many times you see the word I. It's right there on her website. It's not about the people. It's about her ego. She is fueling and feeding her own ego. But hey, I wish her nothing but the best of luck. We're going to see how this is going to roll. It's one thing to declare war or have a beef with one or two members of the Republican Party, but to declare war on the entire Republican Party at all levels of government, and you're alone and unafraid and by yourself and you have no allies to stand with you, child, sweet baby Jesus, you bit off more than what you can chew. And this is why I said in the original video, she did not read the room at all. You do not hunt what you cannot kill. And if you are going to pick a fight, you got to make sure that you win. In the Army, it's always a 3-to-1 ratio. The way I fight, I prefer 5-to-1. It's a numbers game. It's a straight numbers game. But, for other content creators who are like, she's smart and she knows what she's doing. You sure about that? Because the copyright that is on her website says otherwise. But hey, you ain't got to listen to me. I'm just a nerd that's really, really adept at politics and what's going on around in society.
Interesting.
I agree with her.
Jasmine Crockett popularizes the headgear that Davy Crockett popularized. Everybody had one when I was in the 2nd and 3rd grade.
So this is Mike Johnson's Speaker of the House comments when he learned that Jasmine Crockett was running for Senate.
Absolutely delighted that Jasmine Crockett is running for Senate in Texas. I think it's one of the greatest things that's happened to the Republican Party in a long, long time. She is the face of the Democratic Party. She and Mamdani. Good luck with that. I want her to have the largest, loudest microphone that she can every single day. And we look forward to having that election done there. We are going to elect another Republican senator in Texas. I'm absolutely delighted that Jasmine Crockett is running for Senate in Texas. I think it's one of the greatest things that's happened to
I agree. That's like Mandani won, but that was one of the biggest boosts that the Republicans could have gotten. And Trump being nice to him, I think, was sarcastically beautiful.
It's business.
Let's see. We're going to nationalize we're going to urbanize all of the grocery stores in the New York area and put them under the city administration. We're going to make the transportation free. That sounds good, except who's going to pay for it? And let's see. Does the mayor of New York have the authority to do that? No, he doesn't. That would require the city council and shall we say, board of aldermen or a board of aldermen if they have such, and the state legislature. So I don't think it's going anywhere, but at least he had a talking point. Crockett girl doesn't have anything.
Well, one last